Jason's first job was as a carny, which soon propelled him to a stepping stone career as a bouncer. Now he's the Emmy-winning composer and sound designer Jason Hausman, owner of Hot Saki, a creative sound studio that specializes in scoring, Foley, and sound design for film, TV, and new media. He's also the GM of Ground Crew Studios, an audio post-production and voiceover studio that has done everything from AMC's Walking Dead to HBO's Big Little Lies to Pixar's Cars 3. But what else is Jason? He is a husband, a father, and a friend. He's a singer, a songwriter, a guitarist, a drummer, a hunt and peck pianist like myself, a master falconer, a lover of old cars and motorcycles, a pack animal, and a madman hiding in plain sight. So I, for one, cannot wait to hear what else Jason Hausman is. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage to speak on our global theme of Lost, your fellow creative charlatan, Jason Hausman, everyone. Come on up, Jason.
So how am I supposed to follow? I just need to step back down again and do that again, don't I? That song, oh my God. I should have had Harvey do it, though. I want to start by telling a few stories, which most of my friends will tell you that they start out short and go long. Hopefully I can keep them fairly short. I know it's hard to believe by the way I look, clean cut, all that cool stuff. But I was kind of a rebel child. I started out in safety patrol and playing violin and doing all those cute things kids do, and then, through divorces, remarriages, and more divorces, and all the things that happened in my life, and some, particularly one evil stepfather, I ended up in this space when I was about 12 years old where I was drinking, I was smoking things I shouldn't smoke, I was breaking into places I shouldn't break into, I was just kind of derailing completely. My father was ex-military, right wing businessman. My mom was this, I can't say she was an ex-hippie because she's still a hippie in Asheville. But she, she's super left wing, and she's giving me Iron Butterfly, Janis Joplin, and the Beatles, where my dad's throwing me a bunch of good Motown and Stax records and all that fun stuff. So I had this kind of split household, and then certainly when I was 6 years old, it did split, and that's when everything started derailing for me. When I was 12, my mom called my dad to be the voice of reason, come from St. Louis to Terre Haute, Indiana, my hometown, and come and talk some sense into me. I think it might have been a little difficult for her because she was smoking all the things I was smoking and doing most of the other shit I was doing as well. So it's a little difficult. My father came, picked me up, took me to this Noble Roman's pizza place on Wabash Avenue, and we sat down, and he says, hey man, how girlfriend? How are things going? How's school? How's the music? Blah, blah, blah. And trying to dance around the subject. And I'm just waiting, of course, because I know why I'm there. And finally it comes down to what's going on. And to me, my father was he was a superhero, as a lot of times parents are, until you figure out they're human too. And so I didn't even know how to say anything to him, and I also thought maybe he's not, I don't think the space that he's been in and the places he's come from, I didn't think he would understand my struggle at the time. I had not told him that I was defending my mother against the stepfather, defending my brother against the stepfather, that I'd been fighting since I was 8 years old, that I beat the hell out of him with my mom, and she used a broomstick and got away. He didn't know any of these things because I didn't want him to know because I was afraid I would get pulled out of that situation and couldn't protect. So when I'm talking to him, I'm like, I don't know what to say. And he finally said, you have to tell me what's going on. And I picked up a fork and I sat it in front of him. He said, "A fork is wrong?" I said, "No, everything is wrong. I do not understand why we make up words that we can't use. I don't understand why I'm held to some kind of standard that society thinks I should be. I don't understand the government. I don't understand destroying dolphins. I don't understand anything. I just didn't get it. I was struggling teen. What the fuck? I don't get this shit." And he goes, "Oh, son, you just haven't learned to dance." And I had no fucking idea what he was talking about. So I'm like, "Okay." And he said, "No, man." He goes, you have to float above this. We all feel this way. We're all struggling. We're all lost in this. You have to float above it. You have to dance above it. You have to ice skate above it. Any way you need to think about it. You got to get slightly above it and just roll and do your thing and find your way. And in that moment, he gave me a light to look towards. And I'm still trying to skate above it. I still find myself getting pulled down into it. But it was the idea that instead of looking up at all the stuff hovering over me and squashing me down, I needed to stand above it a little bit. Years later, when I was a father, my oldest son was 7 years old. He's 25 now. What's up, dog? I was taking him back to his mom's. I married my mother and ended up getting divorced, just like my dad. It was the exact cycle, repeated again. I was taking him back to his mom. He was in the back of my car. We're riding down the road, and he says, "Dad, can I ask you something?" Well, you're always worried about that one. I was hoping it was about Power Rangers or something, I think for the longest time he thought I was one because there is a Jason Power Ranger. I said, "Yeah, buddy." And he said, "Does everybody get embarrassed?" Shit, here we go. Yeah, everybody gets embarrassed. And see him mulling around for a second, he goes, "Then why does anybody get embarrassed?" I was like, "Shit, I don't know." Sitting back there a little while longer, and he goes, "I don't think I'm going to get embarrassed anymore." And I said, I think that's a really good idea. And the kid, seriously, he went on to write his own comedies for high school. He went on to stand on stages and sing. He's just always been this incredibly fearless and intoxicating human being. You can ask anybody that hangs around him. Emily Sage just mentioned that the other day, that he's just got this thing. Fast forward again, we move into my youngest son, and I'm a big fan of this band called Sigur Rós. Anybody? Icelandic band. Been listening to them forever, right? And my family hated them. Oh my God. They sing in Icelandic. They're really dramatic. It's just this beautiful stuff. You've all heard it. It's out there, but you just don't know what it is. They're so good. You can't understand a word they're saying, it doesn't matter, right? It's like classical music or opera. Every time I turn it on, they're like, "Something else, please." They're coming to Red Hat in Raleigh, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get my two sons to go with me, and they're gonna figure out how badass this band is. They're gonna love them. So I get 3 tickets. My oldest, he bails. My youngest feels trapped, of course, because now he's in a situation where he is screwed, right? He can't get sick, he can't do anything because he knows I'm going to be going alone, right? So we drive up there, and we get to this place, and I give away the ticket, of course, to the first person I see, standing in line trying to get a ticket. It's sold out. We get it in there, and it starts pouring rain like I have never seen. Like it's been pouring the last couple of days. It's sheets of rain coming across. And we knew it might rain a little, so we brought our slickers. The band starts playing, and it's just this tune that just is explosive. They've got this huge group of people on stage. They're banging away at it. It's unreal, and the whole time he's got his hood on, he's in front of me, and it's just pouring, and all the lights are showing all the rain, and it's like I'm just waiting for lightning, you know? And he's sitting there, and I'm enjoying every single song except, I'm like, I am making him stand in the rain watching this band that he doesn't like. I just feel like the shittiest dad in the world. You know, you're gonna like them. Every song, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take him home. I'm just gonna grab him, just pat him on the shoulder, let's just go. And then the next song comes on, and I can't do it, right? So, and I'm watching this band, and I'm being moved in ways where I'm just crying. I'm just the chill that you get, that I mean, hair standing on end. It's the most amazing show I've seen in a long time. Except Jane's Addiction on acid, that was unbelievable. But I'm standing there, and I keep getting ready to touch him, keep ready to do this, and finally I reach out, and I'm like, I've got to tell him we gotta go, right? And right as I'm getting ready to touch him, he spins around, and his tears are rolling down his face, and he says, "This is the most amazing fucking thing I've ever seen in my life." 12 years old. Obviously my son, right? Right. So I tell these stories because my father gave me this light to look towards. And my whole concern my whole life, especially repeating the divorce, was to make sure that I was there for my kids in those moments where I felt like, or they felt like they might be lost. And it's funny how something that seems that small is so defining, and that I've had hundreds of those with my kids, thousands of those moments through team sports, through falconry, through all these different things. I mean, I actually told my wife probably a few weeks later after that, and mulling over the other events with my other son, like those, that I could die right now and know that my kids are going to find their way. And that's an incredible feeling. It's an incredible feeling. And I think my parents, it took a lot longer for them to feel that way about me. I think it was probably post meeting Jen before they were like, okay, I think he's going to be okay. But I don't think it really had anything to do with me at all. So when I got this word, this lost word, I actually had a choice between it and another one a previous month. And I chose lost because it seemed really hard. You know, it's a difficult word to talk about because it's so broad. Lost in love, lost in the moment. I lost my damn car keys again. So I chose it because it's hard, and it's kind of the thing I do, I think. That's kind of my thing, because I do like to get lost. I spend a lot of time in the woods. I like to start projects that I know nothing about. I love to do things like that. I do believe that when we talk about lost initially, though, we think about being stranded, being separated from our pack. That's a terrifying concept. I don't think we have to deal with it so much anymore. I think we've created a society where we're almost protected from that. I mean, I think the last time I was lost, I was just at the intersection of Queens and Queens and Queens. And I'm like, hey Siri, which damn Queens do I need to be on? And it's kind of where we are. And so, but I'm finding that, and if you look at me and hear just a few of the things that I've talked about, you would say, wow, this guy probably has been lost for a long time. When I look back at my life and look at that stepfather and look at what I had to do and look at the things that I've done, I realize that every single thing that happened to me was the best thing ever. Everything. All that shit was fantastic. I had the best childhood ever. That led me here. I think the thing that I have a problem with is I'm always having to do this reset button thing, because I'm floating, I'm skating, and then I'm going back down again. And I'm getting lost again. I'm getting lost in what I should be doing and how I should be doing it. I ran into that about 3 years ago when I realized that I was just stressed all the time. I was very angry and tense and trying to figure out I didn't know why. And then I went to visit my father, and the news was on all weekend. Probably the news that most of you do not watch. And every time I had to try to have a conversation with him, I'd have to pull him away from that. And I'm watching the ticker tapes going by and all this, it's just headline after headline after headline. It was all fucking negative, constantly. And suddenly it dawned on me, I hate the news. Sorry, NPR. I realized that was one of the biggest things. I was starting, instead of floating just above it, I was starting to do this thing I did when I was a kid where I thought I would go save the dolphins, that I could go save just me, go save the dolphins all by myself. And I was running into a situation where I was constantly having to check myself and realize that I can't, global living, the whole global society is a wonderful thing. It wakes up cultures, it brings new cultures to us. I think thinking globally is wonderful. I just can't do it and exist the way I should exist. And so I realized that I needed to stop watching the news. I needed to talk to people around me, get my news clips from them, have discussions about it, go investigate it, not wait for it to come to me. Go find what they're talking about, see if they're wrong, see if they're right, see if they changed my mind. And suddenly I was having dialogue, and I was leaning into the people next to me, and I was starting to think, wow, if I can't save the dolphins, what can I do? What am I good at? Well, some would say I'm good at music. I would say that I've made a living surrounding myself with the baddest ass musicians on the planet. But I knew I could do that. So I started coming to Creative Mornings. I started getting out and doing things and meeting people and finding young artists that I can tap into their talents, which is my mantra anyway. I can half-ass play a lot of things. And I started working with other artists. As a composer, I sit in a room by myself and I create. And it gets very isolating and very lonely. And I don't have sparks of inspiration. I was starting to get run down on that. So I started bringing in people like Emily Sage, Young Citizen, and a lot of people that I've met from here, Tacoby. I've always worked with Dan Hood. I don't know if anybody knows Dan, but holy cow. Been working with him for probably 10 or 12 years at least. So I'm trying to do a lot more of that. And in doing that, I'm finding that I have connections and insight into a side of the industry that these people don't have. And they're also giving me something in return. They're giving me this spark and this energy and this amazing talent. And it's been just so fulfilling to, I'm no longer looking around trying to figure out what I can do. I'm actually just working with the people around me. And I think that as we get caught up in all these crazy things going, I can't help Rwanda from right here. I just can't do it. You know, I'm not gonna do anything about North Korea, but I can do something about my community. So that's helped ground me and helped me get rid of that sense of lost that I was dealing with. Man, I'm getting close, aren't I, guys? One of the things I want to talk about is I view the world, my commodity are heartbeats. I came to the concept a long time ago that I have a limited amount of them. It's already set. I could say it's not, but no matter what I do, it's eventually just going to go like that. And I've got just a few of them. So for me, as social media has been happening, as all this stuff is starting to take over, as people are wearing headphones when we're walking down the street and I say good morning and they don't know what the hell just happened, completely ignored, I'm realizing that we as pack animals are separating ourselves from each other every day more and more and more. And I was doing it. So getting lost to me is a wonderful fucking thing. It's amazing because you get lost in your art, you get lost in your craft, you get lost in love. These things are magical. But we start getting lost in things that are wasting those heartbeats, we're isolating ourselves. We're forcing ourselves to be lost. So I have to hit the reset button over and over again, but I'm really trying to, I have timers on my social media that tell me that my time's up. I've started noticing that it started out that, 9 a.m., my time was up. And now it's 11 p.m., my time's up. And I think that is something that I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around, and I think it's something that scares me for our future, is that sense of isolation. We think we know what everybody's doing in their lives. We do not. Social media is not telling you how your friend's doing. You have no idea, really, unless you're hanging out with them, unless you're talking to them. The other thing I'm seeing is that through all this power that we have with our phones and with our computers, we can pretty much, and Google, hail Google, when I started my company, I'd written one piece of music for a local TV commercial. I scored 70 shows for Turner Networks. I did the Bobcats Growl. I won an Emmy my first year because of being able to go online and search and to be able to tell everybody, yes, I can do that, and find out how to do it. But I have looked at one thing and tried to hone my craft. And what I've noticed with younger people these days, I'm still young, I think, but younger than me, is that they're growing up with the idea that their parents told them they could do anything, but what they're really thinking is their parents told them they could do everything. That they could be a colorist for film, they could be an editor, they can be a shooter, they can be a screenwriter, they can be an actor, they can do all of it. Why do we need anybody else? I'll just do all of it. And I watched a documentary years ago. I can't tell you what it was, where I saw it, but it was about a Japanese pottery guy. He's just world-renowned. He goes down to the river and he digs and he digs and he digs. He gets this beat-up old clay, and he's been working with it for 70-something years. He looked like he was 400 years old. I seriously was wondering how he could walk. But he was in his 90s. And they asked him, towards the end of it, they asked him, why don't you, there's so many other clays, there's so many other things you could use and do this, it'd be so much easier. He said, because I haven't mastered this one. 75-something years, and he's going to die knowing that he will never master it. And I took that to heart. When I started my company, I had a business partner that can do anything, honestly, and he wanted the company to do everything. And we eventually, very amicably, parted ways because I wanted to focus on my one thing. And I think that sense of craft is getting lost in the world. I think getting lost in your craft, the details, and building on those details and learning from your mistakes, I think it's very important. And yes, I can edit video. Yes, I can work in Photoshop. But it's more like me trying to design a t-shirt for my band. It's not like I'm going out and telling people that, yeah, I can do that. So I would say that try to find, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to try to find what I deem to be good things to get lost in. And those are going to be different for every person in this room. But I encourage you, implore that you not be afraid to get lost. That's it. Thank you so much.
Jason Hausman, everybody!